The cosine law is also used when you are trying to determine the side lengths and angles in a triangle that is not right-angled. Again, there are two versions of the formula. One is if you were trying to determine the side length, and one is if you were trying to determine the angle. We'll start with an example where we're trying to figure out the side length. So determine the value of side P. So remember, side P is opposite angle P. So side P is this side right here. The equation for the cosine law to finding a side is this. C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2 times A times B times the cosine of angle C. Now, little c here is the side that you're solving for. And then A and B are the two other sides. Same here, A and B are the two other sides. And this angle C is the angle that is opposite the side you are solving for. So to be able to use the cosine law, if you are solving for a side, you have to know the opposite angle and the two other sides. So again, you know to use the cosine law when the side you are solving for, you must know the opposite angle and the two other sides. That means you need to know two sides and the angle in between. That is what we call SAS, S for sides and A for angles. So SAS means you know two sides and the angle in between. So in this case, C would be equal to P because that's what we're solving for. Capital C is the angle opposite, which is angle P. And the other two sides would be, in this case, opposite I, which is side I, and opposite angle G would be side G. So the formula that we would be using would be P squared, because that's what we're solving for. You start with what you're solving for, equals I squared plus G squared minus 2IG times the cosine of angle P. So that's the first thing you're going to do is to write out the formula. The second thing you're going to do is to substitute in the values. So what you want to remember is this is side I because it's opposite angle I. So this is side I, which makes this side G. And of course, this is angle P. So we're still solving for side P. We know that I is 5, so it's 5 squared plus G is 4, so it's 4 squared minus 2 times I, which is 5, times G, which is 4, times the cosine of angle P, which is 35. So that's substituting into the values. The next thing you're going to do is to solve for P squared all in one step in your calculator. So that means all in one step, you're going to figure out what all of this is. Do not press equals until you get to the end. So in your calculator, 5 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 times 5 times 4 times the cosine of 35. A lot of people will press equals before they press cosine 35. Please make sure you don't. This is all one step. Don't press equals until the end. So if you type all of this into your calculator, you should get, this is approximately, so I'm going to change that to approximately 8.2. And that is P squared. So to get P, you now have to take the square root. So when you take the square root, you get that P is approximately equal to 2.9 millimeters. Just like SOHCAHTOA and sine law, remember that side lengths round to 1 decimal place and angles round to the nearest whole number. Include your approximately equal to signs when you round, and include units if needed. In example 2, we're going to be solving for an angle. This is the angle formula here. So C is the angle you're solving for. So in this case, it's not going to be C. We're solving for angle W. So this is the angle we're solving for, so that's what is going to go into there. Then the other two sides are little c, so I usually make that a script so it doesn't look like a big C. And O, again, I kind of make it look like a script so it doesn't look like the number 0 or a capital O. So that means in the angle formula, this is going to be the angle you're solving for, which is W. The A and the B and the A and the B are the other two sides. So our other two sides are C and O. So this is going to be C and O, and that's going to be C and O. And this side here, the only one that's subtracted, is the side opposite to the angle you're solving for. So the side opposite to what we're solving for is little w. You can make that a little script so it doesn't look like a capital W. So the only thing that's negative in the formula is the side that's opposite the angle you're solving for. All right, so since we are solving for angle W, you start off with W equals cos inverse. Remember, anytime you're solving for an angle, you got to use the inverse function. And on the top, it's the other two sides, not the opposite one you're solving for. So it's c squared plus o squared. And the only one that's subtracted is the side that's opposite. So that's w squared over 2 times the other two sides, which is c and o. So the next step, substitute in the values. So w is cos inverse of, now side c is 8, so it's 8 squared. Side o is 5, so it's plus 5 squared. Side w, the side opposite the angle you're solving for, is 6, so this is the only one that's subtracted, minus 6 squared, over 2 times the other two sides. So side C is 8 and side O is 5. Now, the next thing you're going to do is to evaluate the numerator and evaluate the denominator. So the numerator, 8 squared plus 5 squared minus 6 squared. When you work that out, you get 53. And the denominator, 2 times 8 times 5. When you work that out, you get 80. And then now use your calculator to solve for angle W all in one step. So W is going to be approximately equal to, so when you take cos inverse, so that's when you press the shift or the second function, then bracket 53 divided by 80, close the bracket, equals, and you will get that W is approximately 49 degrees. So the biggest mistake people are going to make with the cosine law here is they're going to mix up which numbers go here. So please remember that the only number that is negative is the side that is opposite the side you're solving for. So if you're solving for, opposite the angle you're solving for. So if you're solving for angle W, the 6 is the one that goes after the negative sign, 6 squared. If you were solving for angle O, the 5 is opposite, and then the 5 would go here, and then these are the other sides. So just to take a look at that, these two formulas are actually the same. This formula comes from rearranging this formula and isolating C. So I'm just going to quickly show you that. You're not responsible for doing the rearranging, but I just want to show you how it works. So the first thing is, there's the side formula. To isolate capital C, what we need to do is You can either subtract a squared and subtract b squared from both sides, but if you do that, you get a lot of negatives. So what we're going to do is add 2ab cos c to both sides. So if you add 2ab cos c to this side, it cancels it out. And there it is, you've added 2ab cos c to this side. Now what we want to do is to get the c squared to the other side. So we're going to subtract c squared from both sides, which means it gets eliminated over here and it becomes subtraction over here. And remember, you have to keep cos c together. You can't divide by 2ab cos. You have to first keep cos c together. So you're going to divide both sides by 2ab, eliminating it from here. So divided by 2ab. And then now to get c, you take the cos inverse of everything that was over here.